Hi, so here we are in the southwest of the United States, in the state of New Mexico, and we're standing alongside the Rio Grande, this beautiful river that brings life to the state. And along the river is a stretch which is called the Bosque, and it's a riparian area of humid land, obviously next to the river. And here we have cottonwoods, we have other plants that are invasive, such as the Russian olive, and we've come particularly to find a stand of plants that are endemic to the southwest called Yerba Mansa and Anopsis californica. And we're very lucky because they've been well looked after here. Although a lot of their habitat has been lost over the years, they are being protected and looked after and encouraged in this area. This plant is actually very easily identifiable in winter because we're lucky. It grows as a covering. It covers the ground in a huge sort of carpet. And in summer it's green and lush with white flowers. And then we see this beautiful copper-coloured carpet still. And that's because a lot of the plant, the vegetative part of the plant hasn't actually completely died away. It's still here. So you can see this is what's left of the flowering top. And here we have the leaves. They're very rubbery, and maybe it's something to do with that rubbery texture that stops the leaves from being completely decayed. So the other thing that's interesting is that they create a whole family of plants that are connected through stolons, very much like the nettle family. So you have one whole sort of community of interconnected plants. So one of the important things when we're harvesting root medicine is to be very aware that when we're taking the roots of a plant, we're taking the whole plant. It's not as if you're just pruning branches of a tree or taking the flowering tops of an annual that will come back. This is much more delicate. So one thing to remember when you're harvesting roots is you want to come into an area and you want to leave it as if so that people can't see that you've been here. And you only want to take a little bit of the roots and from different areas so that you're not causing a lot of damage. So it's up to you to be conscious and aware of how much you feel you can take. And I think a deeper part of yourself will know. I always sort of listen to myself and something inside me says, okay, that's enough here. There is an idea that, to distill an essential oil, you need thousands and thousands of kilos of a plant. And what's interesting, and I hope you'll see through this video, is that you actually don't need hundreds and hundreds of kilos of certain plants that are high yielding in order to get some nice hydrosol and some a decent quantity of essential oil. And that's what we're going to be doing today. So let me begin. What I do is I clear the ground around. You see, there's a part of the plant that's coming out of the ground, so I know that there's a root there. So I clear it so that I can see, getting rid of any bits of wooden things that will stop me being able to dig easily. And what's lovely, look at this, we're in the desert, but this riparian area is so humid and rich and clay-like, very, very unlike the soils in the rest of the area, which have very little organic material. This is rich and lush and humid, and even the soil smells of the Yerba Mansa. So I create an area around, and then you can see, actually, and this is also interesting, that even though we're still in December and the plants aren't going to start to come back to life until way into springtime, they have this beginning of life shooting out of the roots. And even in the deepest winter months, I've harvested this plant, and underneath the ground you have these shoots beginning. It's as if the potential for growth is always there. There we go. So let's see. Now I can feel them. So they're going along this way, actually. Look, that's interesting. You can see the whole community coming up. So don't want to break them because I don't want to break part of the root into the earth. That's it. We're up. Okay. So And this lovely way that the roots, you see, so these are the bits that will connect to other roots under the earth. There is this typical, I always think it looks like a little snail's antennae. And you nearly always find this, it's interesting. And the smell is very, very typical of the Yerba Mansa. The smell is both aromatic and musky. And that's what I love about working with the aroma of Yerba Mansa, is that we get the paradox between that aromatic, pleasant aroma and then this deep, earthy aroma. And we can find that in the way that its medicine works on the psyche as well. But I'll talk about that later. So here we are. This is what we want when we're harvesting, and take away some of this clay soil. And that is what we're going to be distilling. This is the medicine. Our beautiful harvest home, look at that. And now the next thing we have to do is to weigh the amount of material that we have, because we want to know what the yield is from the weight of the original material. You can see that we've kept some of the earth that's sort of stuck to the rhizome, and that's because the earth itself is actually very aromatic, because a lot of if you wash them, a lot of this outer layer of the rhizome will come off, and there's beautiful aromatic molecules on and within that peel that's on the rhizome.
So what we're doing here is we're pulverizing the Yerba Mansa, because by pulverizing it, we dramatically increase the yield of essential oil. So the texture we're looking for is basically this, like wet sand. Again, that dramatically increases the surface area.
So we shredded the Yerba Mansa, which is now in here, probably up to about here. And I wanted to introduce the still and the home setup that we have. This still is nearly 9 years old now, and it's had, as you can see, a lot of use. It's a beautiful copper still that we bought from Portugal. And it was very affordable. It's a 35-litre still, and for sort of 400, 500 bucks, you can get this set up. This is going to be a hydrodistillation, which means that the plant material is in the water. It's really nice to be able to share with you. We've learned so much just distilling at home on a normal stove. We've had countless beautiful hydrosols, but as well, for some of the plants with higher yields, we've been able to distill some beautiful essential oils. And we've learned all about it in this very, very simple copper system. The copper material is well known for distillation because it distributes the shallow really well, and it's antimicrobial. You know, this is a beautiful setup, and one that we advise no smaller than a 20-litre still, which gives you a chance to get a decent amount of hydrosol and sometimes even a few drops of essential oil. So if you want to buy one of these for home, please don't go smaller than 20 litres. This is the receiving vessel where the hydrosol and the essential oil, if there is any, will end up in here. And this is for cooling. So there's a continual closed circuit here with a very small pump that we got for, it's an aquarium pump that pumps the water continuously in a closed circuit to keep this water cool. Because then here is a serpentine which will condense the gas that comes out through the gooseneck top down into the serpentine where it's condensed and comes back out from the gas into the liquid.
So the other thing you need to do is, because this is not a gas-tight seal, we're going to seal it with dough. This is flour dough. The idea is that you create a tight seal all around. While this has been heating, you don't have to do it right away, but obviously before you start getting steam. And this is the traditional way to seal it so that no steam escapes and all the steam goes into the condenser.
Okay, so Florian stayed up well into the night last night in order to finish our distillation. We distilled 2 of these full of hydrosol and essential oil. You can see here the hydrosol is the water aspect, the aromatic water, or hydrolat in French, and then the darker part and these globules that you can see are the essential oil. The hydrosol is the aromatic water that has soluble inside it the hydrophilic aromatic molecules. So the aromatic molecules that are that like water. Some of those molecules are also in the essential oil, but there are other molecules that are in the essential oil that aren't in the hydrosol, and vice versa. Most essential oils, if you get any when you're distilling, will be less dense than the water and float on the top. However, this is one of the rare essential oils that you can see actually is heavier or denser than the water, and so falls down into the bottom part of the separating funnel. This is the first of the essential oil that was taken from the first vaseful, and you can see it's an olive colour. What's interesting is that it's a different colour than the essential oil that is in the second vaseful, and that's because the molecules come from the distill in order of lightness to heaviness. We'll be putting them obviously together so that we get the whole totem or the totality of the oil. I really love the smell, although it isn't what you would call a flowery smell, of course. It's from the roots and it has a very earthy, rooty smell. In perfumery, this would be a base note. I would say base and even underneath base. It's the earth and below. And so in perfumery, this would be, you'd need just a tiny bit to give that anchoredness to the perfume, to give that raw, soil-like, even animal-like aroma. So here we are, we've bled off the oil. This will take some time. As you can see, the globules are going to take some time to descend to the bottom before we can get the rest of the oil, essential oil. This is exceptional. But what I would say is enjoy working with the hydrosols that you get from the plants growing near you. It's a beautiful way of learning about the aromatic plants and then working with them. These hydrosols are beautifully aromatic. They're emblematic